This is Midrash Tanchuma Parshat Toldot, and this is part 2 of God operates at the intersection of destiny and free will. So we have in this Parsha contradictory input, both from Midrashim and even from the simple story. But at the end, it all comes together beautifully. Let me share with you the different pieces. Number 1, you start out with Rivka having these, these in utero struggle going on, and she seeks out prophecy and she finds out Rav Yavo Tzair. So right now we have established that the Jewish people are supposed to be dominating over Esav. That's the way destiny is supposed to unfold. Then we have a second input. We have Esav, who's fooling his father. The Midrash brings examples of how he quotes from Jewish law, so Yitzchak thinks he's more religious than he actually is, or the famous one that Rashi brings in the name of the Midrash, that Kitzayid Befiv. In other words, the Midrash actually describes this in the realm of bribery, that Esav would bring his father these beautifully fresh-killed delicacies, and it sort of warped the Yitzchak's sense of impartiality. He couldn't judge his sons correctly anymore because he was so taken with this amazing food, and that's why, of course, when he wanted to bless them, he again asked them, go out and make me this wonderful fresh-killed meat that you're specialized in. So then you have God, who has to fool Yitzchak in order to bring the balance back, because Esav was fooling Yitzchak, so God had to fool Yitzchak in order to make sure that he doesn't give him the blessings. And how did he fool him? Midrash says outright that this fact that he got blind was for a way to cover up the fact that Rivka could conspire with Yaakov to steal that material blessing that she wanted to have for her son, Yaakov. So God was conspiring in this plot in order to make sure that Yaakov get this blessing. Again, he would dominate over Esav. But on the other hand, the Midrash also tells us that Yitzchak had a prophecy that Esav was going to be a world power, and he would need these material blessings. It says, "Lefi sherash olam hazeh biyado karalo beno agadol." The reason he refers to him as his oldest son is because he's going to be a big, expansive world power. So that was his prophecy. So how can his prophecy be wrong? He was prophesying the opposite, that the Jewish people would be dominated by Esav. And lo and behold, history, of course, unfolded that way. We're still in Galut Esav. And, Rome was a world power, and they sacked and destroyed the base of Mikdash. So you have another reality here against what we thought was the vision that we had found out earlier, that Rivka found out earlier, and that God was trying to conspire to make happen. And then lastly, you have this piece of this fine print and the bracha that eventually Esav got. Remember, he cried bitterly, and his father Yitzchak gave him a blessing, and in it was this very, very critical fine print which would determine actually what happens, who would dominate who. And the fine print said, "Vayak asher tarid." In other words, if Yaakov falls spiritually, then Esav could throw off the yoke of Yaakov, and Esav could rule. So to put it all together, the way Jewish history did unfold was, of course, that Esav was a world power. And that's exactly why Yaakov had this vision, because that's really what it was. But the input that Rivka got from Shem Ve'ever was true. Potentially, the Jewish people could have and should have been the world power dominating Esav. That was a true statement. That was in our power to do that. And God was trying to give us that opportunity by fooling Yitzchak and making sure that things would start out right with Yaakov getting the material blessing. But at the end, that last piece, that was a critical piece, it all depended on what we actually did with this bracha. In some way, we wrote Jewish history, the Jewish people, because we sinned, and through our misdeeds, we went down and Esav went up. And that's how it all sort of comes together. There was the potential and the actual, and that's the way it really unfolded. And that, of course, is why it's so true to say that God operates on the intersection of destiny and free will. Have a great Shabbos.